Hello everybody, welcome back to another video. Today I want to talk about percussions. Lately I've been adding a lot more percussions to my tracks, and I think that's an element that has really been lacking in my track. There's kind of rhythmic variation throughout the drop, and I have some little tips to show you to kind of slightly improve them. Mostly going to be focusing on the mixing and what kind of mixing decisions I make based on which type of percussions I have, if they're more attacky or more tonal or whatever. So I have a project open, and let's just get right into it. Alright, so here we have the track. As you can see, we have a percussions group here. I tend to not process individual percussions that much. As you can see, we have some EQing, but this isn't doing anything. This is just how my track opens when I first open it. So you can see these last three don't have any EQing or anything on them, and these just have slight variations in EQ to kind of clean them up. So the source sound is just basically the percussions as they come out of the sample. But what I really want to talk about is the different mixing decisions I make based on what kind of percussions we have. So I'll play you the percussions on their own, and this is what they sound like. So obviously you hear the delay and everything we have going on, which I'll talk about in a second, but one of the more important things you'll hear is that the attack isn't really very well defined, especially with the delay on. But also the sounds have like a very long tail to them, and they're very tonal. So with that in mind, I decided to go a little bit to treat a little bit more like a background element rather than for example how you would treat a hat, which would be, you know, very much in the center, very much a mono signal, slightly louder than most of your other elements. So decided to treat it more like a background element because it's more tonal and it's more sustained and stuff like that. So to first achieve the background element feeling, I decided to make them stereo, which is not something you would normally do, but on this sound it sounded quite well actually. So as you can see, it's actually widened from the default preset that this opens up with. This particular plugin opens up already widening the sound quite a lot, but with 20% extra widening that's even more. So it looks like this, the stereo field. So you can see some of them are played through the right channel, on majority. That's just because some of the samples are. As you can see, if we open up all of these, they're all in the center. So it's just a sample that's either already panned to the left or the right. And for this track, that kind of worked out well. But the stereo spread kind of enhances that even more and really puts it in both ears rather than just in the mono. So that's one little interesting decision I made. This also gives you more space in the drums, for example, for the hi-hats. If we look at the full arrangement of these percussions, you can see that they're almost always played together with either hi-hats or the clap as well. So to give a little bit more space to those elements, which I consider a little bit more like main elements of the drum loop, I decided to kind of move the percussions out of the way of for example the hi-hats here and the clap and that kind of stuff, just so that it has a little bit more space and the rhythm is a little bit more defined. Even though this will add to your rhythm overall, having all of the things kind of smack down in the center can lead to the mix being so clogged up and so full of stuff that it's hard to find not only the rhythm but like the right tone and everything. So in order to balance it, that also has to do with the fact that I put them in the stereo field. So there's actually a lot of reasons why you would want to do that. So with the same idea, I kind of removed the main mid-range from that. That's to make space for the bass line. Again, the bass line is the more important element over the percussions. So I decided to make space in the percussion so that the bass line can come through more and it would sound nicer. Also I have lead sounds playing in this region as well, which means that otherwise this would be kind of clogged up again and the whole spectrum here wouldn't sound as nice as it could be. So there's a little bit of space there. We do also compress them. This kind of brings back some of the frequencies we're losing here. But overall it makes sure that all the samples are kind of playing at the same level, which is an important step for the next step, where I really turn the percussions into more of a soundscape and more of an atmosphere. If we listen to it without the delay, it just sounds like a percussion loop. So with that delay, what that does is it just adds so many copies and so much variation to it, and it sounds a lot more like this ever-evolving sounds atmosphere sound. You can see that in the filter. You kind of have it modulate up and down, or automate up and down here. In frequency, you can also see that the dry wet is very, very high. Normally I wouldn't go with a very high dry wet, especially not on drum sounds, as that would you know, it would clog up the mix, and it wouldn't normally sound as nice as it does in this case. But again, because they are very tonal and they're very much in the background, it kind of works out well for this sound. So with the delay, as you heard before, it sounds like this. It's also the reason why we have the reverb. And again, the reverb is a little bit higher in dry wet than it would normally have. Other than that, I cannot see anything that's different from the default preset. So that just worked well for me. And then we have some final EQing and a limiter to get them up to a nice level. What you will also see is that the level is at -18. If you know my mixing setup, then you'll know that normally I have my percussions around -12, -13, so it's a little bit lower in volume, again because this isn't as much as of a main element, but rather more of a background kind of atmospheric rhythmic support kind of element. I decided to tone them down a little bit, put them a little bit more backwards in the mix, and therefore turn the volume down a little bit. So that were some of the mixing decisions I made with these percussions, and it's a little bit of a different view of percussions and a different usage of percussions than you would normally have them. Normally, again, you would have a lot of rhythmic context there, and it would be a lot more defined, that they're more in the foreground and that kind of stuff. But for this track, this worked, and it might be also something that works for your track as well. So if you enjoyed this video, feel free to leave a like. If you're new here, feel free to subscribe. If you have any other questions or anything that you would like me to cover, feel free to leave a comment down below, and I hope to see you next time. Bye bye.